Hard times build character.
This isn't just a show, this is real life. It's not about how you start, it's about how you finish.
You gotta see it before anyone else can see it.
Every second, every minute, every day.
We train for life. We got you.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Relentless Way podcast, season number 4, episode number 4. Paul Alvear here with my longtime friend and business partner, Matt Strout, as well as a special guest returning part of our team, Bryan over here, Coach Bryan Schlesinger. Did I say that right?
Yes, sir.
Man, I got it. Nice. Cool. Today our episode is staying true to his self, something that Bryan has done along the way. We want to bring him on and really show you and remind you of the type of person and the man that he is. You know, as I said before, I've said before, and we were talking pre-show, he's a gentle giant, and he said something pretty funny, but you know, he could be aggressive and nasty if it's needed and put in that work, but he could also rock that baby to sleep too. He's a as you get to know and keep hearing and the things that Bryan has to say, and especially since the last time he's been on, which was back a season or two ago with Coach Drew, he's just grown immensely, and not only are we proud of it, but it's exactly what we expect out of him, and he knows that and expects that out of himself. So we're excited to have Bryan here today, and we're gonna just try to pull the best out of him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. Super excited to have him back on here. I can definitely contest to that as well. My sweet little baby girl, she's a peanut, but she's always looking to go to Big Bryan, she calls him. She's comfortable with him, so he does give off that energy. It's a feelable, knowable thing. And, for us, it is cool because we have been able over the past, it feels like much longer than it's really been. I don't even know how, it's probably only been, how long has this been? This journey?
Year and a half.
A year and a half. It feels like forever. That's the type of people that we like bringing into the circle because it becomes so connected and so real. And, we're blessed to be able to see both of those sides because of the way that this brand runs. Paul and I want to bring the families together and have people around and allow people to grow inside of the movement. So we get to see him in his aggressive states of, training himself hard. We box together where I get to get that best side of him as well. But it's also, we get to see that nurturing, loving side, which, we believe is also what helps make him the greatest coach that he's becoming today. So I think it's cool. It's been a great journey to watch from the boy, I would say, that he's come in at, to the man that he is now. Has been an evolution. I think in the beginning, I think he always knew who he could become deep down. I think there was definitely some questioning going on, but I do believe now, after we've been able to build relationships together and trust each other and believe in each other, we have helped him stay true to the title that you see here, which is him staying true to himself. So we have allowed him to not feel an obligation to be or say or do something that he is not or doesn't want or need to be. And for him to stay true to his heart, and he knows what's right and he knows what's wrong. So now it's just like, hey, we believe in you, we trust in you, be that man that you are inside, and now let's go run. Let's apply those beautiful traits that you have of being loyal, having a big heart, and having that sick work ethic that he brings every day. So, let's have him now tap into the beginnings, because who you see today and who you hear speak right now, it is not who we saw a year and a half ago on his first day. Still a lot of potential. Paul and I saw that potential in him, but I want Bryan now to take us back to the beginning of when he walked in that first day, and we went on that first interview, that first walkthrough, that first conversation to really learn more about who he is in that moment, who he wanted to become, and what the Relentless brand stood for and where it was going.
Yep. So first things first, I'm very excited to be here. I want to thank you guys for the opportunity to be here.
Always, brother.
So, talking about the first interview that I went on about 2 years ago, I would say. Walking into it, I didn't really know what to expect, I would say. I used to I was close to, PJ and everything like that. So he always would talk to me about, what the brand stood for and everything. But from my point of view, I was never really in it, so I couldn't really understand except, like I said.
Fully, right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So going in there, I I wanted to be myself. Like, that was first things first. But, like, obviously, you're going on an interview for the first time. Like, everybody's been through a job interview. Like, you kind of, you're not completely truthful to yourself, I would say,
Yeah.
But
you want to paint the best picture. You
Yeah,
want
100%.
initially, like anyone else, you want it to be the best thing. You want your best self to be represented and to make it work, right?
Right, and especially because, like, I'm big on first impressions.
Right,
too.
for sure, yeah.
Because, like, it's not like it was the first time I ever met you guys. Like, I met you guys, a couple years prior to this, but it was a couple years in between, like that big gap in between when I went away to school.
Right.
But I didn't really understand it because, like I said, I wasn't in it yet.
Right.
So, looking back on it now, like, at the time, I definitely wasn't ready.
Right.
100%. And, you guys gave me a choice. It was either, you gave me the day to think about it, you wanted me to sleep on it, and I could have either, stayed home and not came back the next day, or I could have came back the next day. And I'm the kind of person, when I want something, like, I'm gonna go get it. Mm-hmm. So, and this is something that I wanted to do.
So let me ask you, in this moment, did you this first decision that we gave you, right, for the opportunity, this was before, you still don't have a great understanding, or the best understanding, obviously, of what you're getting into. You're thinking trainer at a gym, and you're still there. This is the opportunity 100%. Of just, hey, do you want to take this journey and connect with us or not, right?
Absolutely. And like I said, like, when I want something, I'm gonna go do it. So I ended up coming back the next day, and I did it from the membership point of view. Because I wanted to see it from both ends. Like, obviously, I wanted to see it from the coach's side first, but I obviously knew that's not exactly how it was going to be. So, I came in as a member, and I'm coming from Toms River too, so that's about a 35-minute drive.
Yeah, that's a commitment.
It was very, it was one of those things where it was easy for me to say, what, like, screw this, like, I don't have to do this. But this is something that I wanted to do. So, I decided to button up and get my ass to the facility. So, and then the rest is history, pretty much. Like, I committed to, I think it was 5 days a week. It was either 4 or 5
days a week.
Yeah, it was 4 or 5 days a week. And Paul started out writing my programs. And then once I started to get more comfortable with it, then I started writing my own programs. Right. So I got that feel for what it was like to be a coach running program design.
I think that I was going to kind of pop in here and say, I think the biggest thing, the best thing that we saw, which Matt highlighted when he kind of passed the first question off to you, was that we knew you were willing to work hard. We knew you were willing to be a part of something. You were here. You were willing to take the opportunity.
Yeah.
Right. The one question that we wanted you to answer for yourself and be truthful with yourself is how much are you willing to adjust, right? How much are you willing to change, in a sense? Like, it wasn't about, like, something that you were stuck in for years. You were a young man. I mean, you were 21 at the time, probably, right? Like 2021 at the time. You were younger than a year and a half, 2 years younger than you are now. And you were figuring yourself out. So you said before about being honest with yourself. I think early on, again, I'm going to play the person to say, don't be so hard on yourself. But early on, it's tough, to challenge yourself and say, be completely honest with yourself, because not that you have to lie, but you have to adjust and you have to change and you have to bring things about in a different way and try things and go into, you're not established. So I think sometimes it's unfair to say, this person is lying to themselves or lying to us. How Matt and I perceived it is, we wanted you to go and take on the change and innovation and not be the yes man, right? And that's how we described it to you, and you've done everything, and you've done that and more, right? So I think that was the biggest thing, is you not just yesing yourself, like, yes, I'll do this, yes, I'll do that, even though what it turns into is the more you tell yourself yes, right, even if it's not true, then it feels like you're lying to yourself, right? 100%. But what you changed was, yes, I'll do this, and this is why,
right?
Or you were honestly, in certain moments, which we were proud of, able to say, no, like, that's not what I stand for. That's not the way I want to do it. But here's a different way, right? And that's where we came up with the months of what you went through in between, committing to the opportunity and going through your, what we call kind of like your internship probationary phase, and explain about that, how it went. Even while you were a member, other things that we had you doing and what was going on,
So while I was a member, I was still in school. During the time we were, in the middle of the pandemic, so I was completely 100% virtual.
Right.
And so I was still going to school. I was taking about 6 classes a semester. And my goal was to finish school about a year early, which I ended up doing. And, you know, I was probably about 3 or 4 months into my phase as a member. And, you know, I approached both Matt and Paul, and I asked them, I was like, listen, you know, I need an internship for school, like just for graduation purposes. And I asked them, like, is it okay if, you know, I interned for Relentless and see what it's like to actually run a business? Because I went to school for business management with a concentration on entrepreneurship. Right. So with that being said, I wanted to surround myself with guys who had, you know, their foot in the game or their head in the game. And I wanted just to basically learn how to run a business. At the time, you know, I wanted to open up my own gym. So what better way to learn than from two of the best over here? So with that being said, you start to reevaluate certain things. And then the way that I envision my own future facility is exactly how Relentless is ran. Except at the time, you know, I was in more of a, I was competing in powerlifting at the time. So I wanted to gear more towards like the powerlifting niche. But then, you know, as you start to get into it, you start to learn a lot more, you start to realize that that market is very niche and it's very small. Niche, right? It's very small. So, you know, you start to really evaluate it. It's like, okay, what am I going to do to now kind of, like we said before, adjust to the whole situation? So now I transition from a competing in powerlifting, to basically doing like a complete 180 and changing the way that I trained. So that alone gave me a lot of perspective on what it was like to adapt and overcome certain things. So, you know, with that being said, over the course of the internship, I basically had to do a 12-credit internship, which for people who don't really know, 40 hours is equivalent to 1 credit. So 12 times 40 is about 480. Right. So I did close to 500 hours during my internship. And I did that spread apart.
That was good quick math right there.
Yeah. Right? And well, that number's kind of jolting in my head.
That's true. I was trying to do it. I'm like, oh, shit, that was good. Well done.
But so in that period was from about middle of May until the beginning of August. Right. So it was about like a 3-4 month period. And basically during that time, you know, Matt and Paul gave me a bunch of different tasks that allowed me to learn what it was like to be on the back end of certain things. So during that time, I was still able to, you know, be on the floor and learn what it was like to be a coach. So with that being said, I was still learning how to be a coach. I was learning how to run a business. So I was basically getting the best of both worlds, especially because being a coach was something that I aspired to be.
And our favorite part about the way that you develop is that also taught us a lot about our process, right? About our hiring process and adjusting our hiring process. Because now, about 90% or maybe even 100% of coaches that want to come on the team, when they go through their CIT or their coaching training process, they experience the similar stuff because we learned how effective that was for Bryan to see it from our eyes, right? From Bryan to understand early on that you're running your business inside of the business, right? So not because we don't have the time or because we don't want to run a transaction or not because we don't want to start a new contract or connect with a member or have a phone conversation with a lead, right? We still do that stuff at other levels, but because we wanted to show you how important it is for you as the person delivering the service to do all the similar things that we're doing. Right? Now, certain things I might have showed you along the way, how I keep the books, with the bills we pay, the insurances, the stuff like that you don't need to carry on as a coach. But It's good to know it and be aware of it, right? 100%. To understand the truth and the reality of what goes on behind it and what makes the doors open every day, as we say, right? But on the next level, it's important for you to be able to do all those other things for the sake of being in tune with it, right? And not just be the opposite of the man in the person in the tower and just be the person on the floor. Right. Now you're in between, right? You're able to get that bird's eye view at a certain point, but you're able to zoom in, climb in there, and deliver that product. And I think that was huge in him developing as a person because he needed to see and feel that and wanted to for the internship's sake and for Bryan. And it was huge in creating our CIT process.
Absolutely.
You know? Yeah, I mean, we are definitely constantly evaluating. Everything are always our standards, but definitely that CIT process because that is how we keep scaling and growing this brand. And I think one of the big things that we kept sitting and analyzing and going over that we always kind of go back to is the Goose, Evan, who was on, you know, recently, and why he can bleed the brand and the standard so deeply. And the more and more you analyze it, it is because, you know, he spent so much time with Paul and myself. And now listen, Paul and I, we didn't know what we were doing either, but we just had hard work ethic and the ability to not take no for an answer, and we like to solve problems. So every day this kid would show up and be with us. And now he's a 20-year-old man who understands how to see a problem and find a solution and execute on it. Like that's his process. That's how he operates. So now going into this, as we keep evolving, our goal is to constantly expedite that process. How do we bring somebody in who's hungry, passionate, motivated? How do we get them to be operating at the coach that we create and the standards of? How do we minimize and expedite that time? So it's constantly about trying to figure that out. So it was kind of cool how this worked out, because Bryan did need the internship for school. So it kind of forced us to create all of this time and these different activities for him to be a part of. But in turn, looking back, what it really did also was it kind of kept him around us all the time. He helped us start this podcast actually that we're on right now. Like, it was something that Paul and I spoke on for a long while. And it was something that, you know, we desired to do based upon coming off of our mindset discussion in-house group pre-pandemic. So post-pandemic, we wanted to get our mouths back out there and our voices to the world and stay connected. So, you know, after doing some research and realizing that it could be done and we didn't have to wait to get certain things, we were able to start it at a lower level and build up to where it is now. We're going to keep getting it better. But it was cool because Bryan was a part of that with us. So he literally watched us step into unknown territory from the beginning. We borrowed stuff from here. We got a camera. We got some of this. We got some of that. We borrowed a bunch of stuff. We put it together, and we just figured it out. And I think our young crew, especially right now, makes us so proud, because unfortunately, the way of society of today, you don't see a lot of young men and women who are operating with this mindset and with this thought process at which these kids do. And that makes us very proud, because that's what we want around us. Like, it's not about young or old. It's about who you are and how you carry yourself and your character. But to be blessed to have such young stallions on the team is beautiful, because they bring young energy. So I think for him as a young man, being a part of college at the time and the society that he's in, to be a part of that experience for me and Paul, just to be like, look, dude, we don't really know what we're doing, but we're going to do this. So you're going to figure it out with us. And he's like, okay. And he just showed up. But that's a lesson, because that's what we've done our whole lives. And I think we try more and more now to give those experiences and those lessons to the team coming up. And the young team, when I say young, I don't mean age, I mean entrepreneurial age. Like, as Paul said earlier, you're running a business inside of the business. So when our coaches are growing themselves individually as coaches, that is their personal brand and business inside of the big brand of Relentless that we all fall under. And it's very important to know how to grow yourself as an individual, and it's going to take a lot of experiences and a lot of ups and downs, you know. So we're constantly trying to navigate through and give experiences and allow them to get knocked down, but stay down there with them and say, listen, this is what happened, this is why, let's learn, and let's pick them back up and throw them back out there now. Let them keep playing some ball. So I think with that, it's a beautiful thing, not just with the youth, but just who Bryan was. Now, to go back to what he said, there was a moment where we told Bryan, listen, we believe in your potential, but right now you're not giving the juice off that we want. Like Paul said, there was too much yes man. There was too much, like, he was willing to do whatever, but he didn't even necessarily understand it. And we wanted that, but we also wanted him to not be afraid to say, hey, look, I'll do this, but like, why? I want to understand why. Like, I need to know why, right? And I think that by us putting him in a place and sitting down and say, listen, Bryan, we believe in your potential and we believe in your application, because you're putting in the time, you're putting in the work. But this is the next step that we believe is going to help make you the best man and the best coach that you can be. You need to do this, this, and this. And we gave him an option and a choice. And as a young man, he took it head on. He showed up the next day and he took that on one task at a time, one after the other. And now this is why he is where he is today, because he's willing to take on those challenges and those different adversities that we presented in front of him. And he's not afraid to mess up, and he's not afraid to say, hey guys, what could I do to get better? And that's what we do every day with each other. So that's the circle that we're looking to create. So that part in itself has been amazing to watch, of him not being afraid to be told, listen, this is not right. But if you do this or this, it could be right. Or, hey, you made this decision and we kind of understand where it was at, but listen, let's stop for a second. Imagine if you stepped back. would you still have made that decision? And be like, nah, probably not. But we're teaching him how to slow time down, how to be calm, how to be cool, how to not be emotional. And that ultimately we trust in his decision, which is major, because no matter what, we know he's going to do the best thing in that moment. And we'll all go back and we'll grow and we'll work off of it moving forward.
You said something in there, you used the word figuring it out when we talked about a lot of our coaches, our young coaches, our greener coaches, right, that are newer in the industry, not necessarily by age, but when I go reflect back to age in certain periods in their life, figuring it out really stands out, because a common thing that we get, and actually at all levels for a new coach, is the transition of, all right, what's my income look like? What kind of money am I making? Do I have money coming in, right? We also hear this a lot with, I think it could be different because we're pulling you into the workforce world, right? But the reality is if you're away at school and you go into an internship, I've heard people that are going to the city getting paid $30 a day when it's costing them $100 more just to commute daily, right? So let's weigh those sacrifices and understand it. But I think the challenge is there's so much perception and so many things out there that these kids or these people starting their new journeys, or when you start something new, it's so focused on compensation right away, right? I think a thing that Bryan has done along the way, and I want him to really reflect and talk to you about this, because I think it's just great to hear where he was when he started with us with it, where he is now, and where he plans on being with it, and he's okay with it. And I think it's perfectly fine. It's even better to be diverse and okay with the way that he operates. And I want everyone listening, but especially people that are in the same time frame and position in their life of where you are right now, or where you were when last time we talked, and what has changed and where you are in your different hats that you wear throughout your work day or your work life, right?
So from the last time that I was on the podcast, I was working in the hospital. I was doing security in the hospital at the time. And I was still trying to balance working in the hospital while still being the best coach and the best version of myself that I could be at the time. So it was a very brief stint that I was working at the hospital for. I worked at the hospital for about 2 months. And the reason why I wanted to do that was because I wanted to get the experience of what it was like to be on, all ends of security. Because during the summer, I'm one of the head bouncers at one of the nightclubs in the Jersey Shore, Jenks. And futuristically speaking, what I see myself doing is I see myself starting a private security company. So that's essentially where I see myself in the future. And during the time, it's all about balance, right? So my schedule at the hospital was about 3 days a week. I worked Mondays, Tuesdays, and 2 or 3 Saturdays a month. So I was in a per diem position. And during that time, I didn't really think much of it, but there was a lot of balance that was going on with that. So, I was working, call it 12, 15-hour days during that time. And it all comes with balance.
Yeah, I think during those moments between you had Jenks going on, Relentless, and the security position at the hospital, it's a beautiful thing, because when you look back, and it may make you feel or remember moments of being overwhelmed, but the reality is that's when you were teaching yourself and you were taking this stuff head on. So what I want you to really reflect on is the lessons and the reason why, right? And this may be a in-moment reflection. This may be a live reflection right now. You might have never thought of it this way. But if you really think about it, what you told yourself was, I'm going to try and continue to try and do, which you still take on, anything that has to do with what's going to move me closer to my mission. Your mission is to run a private security company. We don't know what it's going to entail, right? But you have ideas and you learn along the way. What you learned is that you want nothing to do personally with working inside the hospital and the type of people
healthcare,
and situation you were in, right? Inside the healthcare that. But you also learned an avenue of that, private security and a company that has it there. Maybe you'll take those contracts on, but maybe that'll also help a young stud when you have your company and you're going to place them and you say, you're perfectly fit for this. I wasn't, but you're perfectly fit for this. So those are the lessons that we learn when we go about these trials and tribulations, right? So Jenks is something you've always held on to because you're comfortable there, and it's where you early on made your bread and butter. But it's even something that I've talked to you, right? You may not want to always be in. So let's talk about the vision now a little bit, knowing that and me kind of helping you get that feeling and pull that in together. Where it could change. It doesn't have to be the exact answer, but let people hear what your vision is of what, if you could fast forward 10 years from now and you have your private security company, what are some things that you want to be involved in that you want to do with your company? Like, what are some things you want to take on?
Well, I would say the biggest thing that I want to take on is high-level executive protection. So more one-on-one. I don't like calling it this because it's not really exactly the term. But when you think of like bodyguard services, that's essentially what it is. So, when you think of high-level executives, you're thinking, CEOs, celebrities, athletes, people along those lines. I want to be able to provide a service where wherever they go, they feel protected. Right. So like, that's essentially where...
And protected from what? Because we're in a different world now.
Anything, really.
Right.
Whether it's protecting them from themselves, number one,
right.
fans, just any outside sources, like anything that could potentially put them in harm.
Right, because a lot of people go towards the fullest extent of harm, right? Everyone thinks private security, they think like what protects the president or someone in a government position, or like snipers, things like that, right? The reality is nowadays, there's people out there that need protection and guidance, just someone to be with them all day. So whether you're driving that car, that black car, you're driving them somewhere, then you're hopping out and they're comfortable, you're able to stay next to them and be a connection, say, hey, don't make that decision, don't do that.
Right. Being able to
at the same time, being able to say, hey, let him be right now, he's got a busy day ahead, or saying, hey, I think you should kind of talk to this person. This is a good time to do it. I'll make sure no one else gets in your way. You know? But for people that value every moment of their time and could afford to invest in someone to help them direct and keep that energy in a good way, So,
absolutely.
But what I want everyone to kind of, Matt plays a huge role. Him and Brian, just like all of us, have a real good connection. But what I want everyone to see is the ability through what Brian has done as only a 23-year-old man right now, is to do things he loves along the way and continue to grow himself towards his future vision of where he wants to be and his passion, right?
Yeah, that's where when I was gonna speak, that's exactly where I was gonna go, is how this young man has dove headfirst into his passions. And I think the world, Paul and I were ahead of the curve. That's all we know, is running headfirst into our passion. And I think the pandemic has really woken up a lot of people in the world of understanding how valuable life is, and how crucial it is, and how fast things can shift and change. And I think that people really started understanding that you only get one life and you should live it to the fullest. And I think one of the things that we bring in the Relentless movement is teaching people how to live fully and to truly understand who they are and what makes them happy and what brings them that good energy, and to go out and go get it. And the reality is that if you're passionate and you love something and you study it and you understand it and you become valuable at delivering it, you can create a livelihood on it. You could create a career. You create, and then all of a sudden, it's crazy, but like when you start doing it, like I don't feel like I'm just living. Like my lives are connected. My personal and professional life is, I'm just invested in myself. I'm invested in the brand. I'm invested in my family. I'm invested in my team. And then I'm just living life. Like I do what I love to do every single second of every day, basically, right? Does that come with sacrifices sometimes? Of course. But when you're doing it for the bigger, beautiful cause that you desire, it doesn't even feel like that. It just feels like something that has to get done to get the job done, right? So I think one of the big things to take from, again, this young man is that he is willing to go and try new things, to understand all the different elements of the industry, but then to come back home and reflect and understand, okay, I don't like this, I do like that. And he's willing to run headfirst into his passions. He's willing to invest his time, energy, and effort, and not just be looking for that compensation off the bat. Because I always try to educate everybody, especially the young, the men and women of today. You gain value two ways really in my life that I've grown up, which is monetary, right? And then the second one would be experience. Like every moment in time, every experience can gain value for you as an individual. So you almost need to be, like I like to say in my own mind sometimes, with every experience there could be a selfish and a selfless reason for performing that. So what does that mean? That means in every experience there's a reason why maybe you're doing something, let's say for your friend that you love, but you really don't want to be doing it, right? So selflessly, you're doing it for the friend or the person that you love, right? But then selfishly, every experience in life you can gain wisdom and knowledge from. So like, if you could go in and say, listen, I don't really want to do this, but I'm going to learn and grow from it, because every experience I can learn things that I like and things that I don't like, and then I can take them and apply them for experiences moving forward. If you could do that with every single thing that you do, everything would feel like an investment. You're either going to invest your time and get paid for it, or you're going to invest your energy and effort and get wisdom and knowledge for it. So like, you never really feel like you're wasting anything, or like, running around in a circle. So, us always hanging around and being together, I know has helped Bryan do that. But at the same time, I think what we did is just bring out who Bryan really is inside.
Right.
And we confirmed with him and said, hey, you're good. Like, keep doing this. Like, we got you. This is what we do. We did it. We're going to try to give you if we could give an experience or a lesson where you don't have to make that mistake that we already made, then God bless, that's what we want. But otherwise, just go make mistakes. Like, go figure it out. We're going to pick you up. We're going to be here, and we're going to learn, and we're going to keep pushing forward. So,
and let's bring people inside the walls now of Relentless, of our movement, right? And Bryan's impact that he's had on the Relentless movement. So when I think about Bryan inside of what we do and inside the Relentless way, I think of three things, right? I think of him as a coach on the floor and to our clients, right, inside the facility, right? So his personal training clients, and our members that get to experience his passion, his education, his comfort, and his ability to host as a coach on the floor. I think number two of Bryan stepping up as a leader to our youth program along with Coach Evan. And then I think number three of him taking something on a little bit distant from us where we're sitting right now at 301 Main Street in Bradley Beach, and on the other side of that wall across from us of starting to build a presence inside of that facility, right? So those three things. How do you feel you've grown, and just let's reflect and highlight on your passion and your energy towards all those three things, you know?
Well, I mean, you said it there. It's about passion, right? Like, I was actually saying this to my friend the other day. Like, the feeling that I get, like, back when I was in high school, I played football, right? So that feeling, those Friday night lights, you're strapping up, put that helmet on, buckle up your chin strap. Like, that's the same feeling, like those butterflies that I get that same feeling every day when I put on that coach's shirt. So, like, for that, like, I don't ever feel like I'm working, because, there's a great quote that says, like, if you love what you do, you never work another day in your life. And that's exactly how I feel. So me being able to say, like, I'm very passionate about what I do. So, just everything that I've been able to step up on, like you said, with my personal training clients, with stepping up on the floor, like that delivery that I do comes from passion. Same thing with the youth program. The way that I approach the youth program is like, I want to set up the next generation for success in every single way. That's through hard work, being a leader, standing up for yourself, number one, standing up for others if need be, and then, stepping up at 301 Main. That's just how it is. I do that with passion, everything that I do.
Beautiful, and that's noticed. It doesn't go unnoticed at all. And I'm going to highlight another interview that Bryan has grown dramatically and continues to put effort towards his organization, his schedule, his time management, and something that he talked about, which was a struggle, but he puts into everything he does is balance, right? So those are things. And how do you feel today on again, another reflection moment for you live in front of this camera and your voice to the people's ears? How do you feel you've grown with your balance and with your organization, and how much that has helped you on that sense?
I definitely feel like I've grown a lot in that sense, but I feel like I can do a lot more. So I'm always looking to grow. I'm always looking to get better. So from the last time that I was on the podcast, I think it's night and day.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I finally learned how to use the calendar. Right. Which is always a good thing. So, I live by my calendar. So I pretty much schedule everything from the time that I wake up, my morning priming, to the way that, my hours are. Yeah. So, it all comes to a dichotomy, right? Being able to balance, work life, social life, and everything, in between. So in terms of that, I feel like I've definitely grown a lot. And like I said, I'm just looking to get better with that.
I love it, Bryan. And, the people listening are very fortunate to hear your experience and for you to step on and have the courage to come on not one time, or actually been on 2 times before, once with the team too. Then with Drew, and now on your own. And we're going to continue to bring we're on a nice little cadence of bringing a coach on and bringing a perspective from a member or a client of ours or someone that has the Relentless Way has affected them, and they have helped grow and build the Relentless Way from their hard work and effort too. But I mean, I've said many great things about Bryan throughout this episode, and we please just remind everyone to take this perspective and understand where it's coming from, and pass it along. And if you know that there's someone at this similar crossroads in their life that Bryan's at now, and maybe he's experiencing something that he did in the last couple of years, also don't ever hesitate to reach out to him and connect with him, because he's always willing and open to take anyone's phone call or text message and help anyone grow and get better too.
I'm going to dig just for a second a little deeper as well on the 301 main and the leadership role that he's taken, because from his standpoint and from our standpoint, so for Paul and I as leaders, and the dichotomy, Bryan used a great word a few minutes ago, of our roles as leaders, right? So Paul and I started as, you could say, almost like overbearing parents, right? Who never wanted to give the ability for anyone to do anything, because we needed to do it right and we needed to make sure it was done properly, which in the beginning it had to be done that way, right? And that's part of leadership and growth. Then it gets to the point of now, wow, we're doing such a great job that we have more flow and people, now we need help. So we reached a point where we're like, oh my God, we need help. So we just started bringing in any of the help. And then that got too diluted, and that was no good. Now we're in a beautiful, sweet position, like we said earlier, of having a coach and training process, understanding that there has to be ups and downs, and understanding that you have to allow people to grow, and our mission as coaches is to grow our team. So I do believe that we're the best we've ever been as leaders, and to give opportunities to our team for them to grow and to evolve and to, have those experiences for themselves, and then us to kind of come back to the drawing board and grow off of them. All right. Now, let's talk about Bryan. We said earlier that we literally sat with Bryan and said, we believe in your potential and we love your application, but right now you're not ready to put a coach shirt on. Okay. Now you fast forward to him wearing a coach shirt and representing us in a different town that Paul and I are not really involved in. Okay, so from our standpoint, there was a lot to get to the point to create a satellite location to know that we weren't going to be there every single second, and that we need our standards to be upheld. That's a lot. Okay, it took a lot for us to get to that point. Then the guy that we end up sending over there is this young man who becomes this stallion man who understands who he is, what he represents, and how he's going to represent this brand. And now he is one of the leaders, as well as Andrea, who's another coach that we'll have on soon. But Bryan is representing the brand, and we sleep very well about it at night. We know that he's going to live up to that standard, and he's going to represent the way that we desire for him to be, and the way that we want it to be. So I just think that transition is a beautiful thing, and it's come a very long way. And I think the world needs that. The world needs to know that that's what life is. It's about trying things. It's about not knowing exactly what it's going to take to get there, but just taking that first step and just showing up and taking direction and taking leadership from the right people, and being surrounded by like-minded individuals. And that's what this brand stands for. That's why we're here today doing what we do, so that we can connect. Like Paul said earlier, don't ever hesitate to reach out. You can reach out, hit us up on social media. If you have our numbers, connect. Get it, not just Paul and myself though, with Bryan too. Like, he is a leader, he is growing every single day. If you need some good energy and some good juice from another young man, hit him up. He's got it. Like, let him give it to you as well, because that's what we do. It's contagious. We want to give it out so we can keep pulling people up.
And a lot of good stuff from all three of us, as always. We've been on many rides together. When we were setting Bradley up, we've been in many rooms together for countless hours, working, having good conversation. So I'm really excited and happy for the people to be able to hear us three sit down and kind of wrap it up a little bit. I want to leave everyone with just a quick reminder of the title of this podcast is staying true to himself. And we speak about Bryan, but for a leave off is you should always remember to be honest with yourself, stay true to yourself, in your work ethic, in your missions and your goals, and just keep attacking and keep working hard as you work towards that stuff. That is the true definition of the Relentless Way. that is what we are giving off. That is what's out there. It's there for everyone to reach out and grab, whether you are part of our movement or not. The Relentless Way is out in the world. Again, you could be in another country, in another state, in another place. No matter where you are, that is an option for you, right? Whether you hear this once and never listen to it again, or whether you listen to us religiously, we just want to be able to let people hear our voices, the voice of a guest of ours on this show, inside of any of our facilities one time, and for that experience and that moment to carry on and hopefully change someone's life forever moving forward. So, Bryan, thank you again for joining us and sharing your experiences and your journey so far in life and with Relentless. And we look forward to, obviously, we'll have you back again sometime along the way. But thank you again for joining us.
Of course, thank you for having me.
Of course. And, season 4, episode number 4, the Relentless Way podcast, staying true to himself, is Bryan Schlesinger, Paul and Matt here checking out. ShareAway, Apple Music, Spotify, and Amazon Music. Share with your friends, with your family. Keep passing it along and spreading the Relentless Way.
Just keep getting it.